Labour Party has promised to reverse what they call the Tories' 14 years of decline on Britain's high streets.
That's right. They say that they're going to reform business rates and get tough on shoplifting. So, as I say, Liam Halligan, our business and economics editor, is here. How are Labour going to revive the high street? Sounds wonderful in principle.
This is a sort of another pre-election perennial, isn't it? We're going to make Britain's high streets better, particularly in some of our regional towns and cities where high streets have been hollowed out. I mean, crikey, even if you go along high streets in prosperous parts of London...
Well, go to Oxford Street.
Boarded up
Terrible
shops and so on. So this is really at the centre of levelling up, this idea that we need to rejuvenate our high streets, because they're more than just places where you shop. It's where people meet, it's where people form communities. And Labour have homed in on something called business rates. Let's have a quick look at their plan. So I've got a little graphic here. So they've announced this 5-point plan to revive the high street today. We've had various senior Labour frontbenchers up in the North East announcing this. They've got this 5-point plan. At the centre of the plan is replacing business rates with a business property tax. Business rates raise about 30 billion quid a year. They're a tax on the rateable value of your property if you're a business, particularly if you're a retailer, whether you own the property or not. So you have to pay it whether you make any money or not, whether you make any profit or not, whether you take in any revenue or not.
Make any sense, does it?
You have to pay a lot of money. Labour say they want to level the playing field with online retailers. They say that this business rates regime, replacing it with a business property tax, means that online retailers will also pay that, which will mean that bricks and mortar retailers, high street retailers, don't have a massive disadvantage
How
over
does the online retailer pay? What, they pay it on the warehouse or something?
Well, again, this is vague. We don't know. Are they really going to take on the massive online retailers?
The Tories have promised it for 10 years and never did.
Tech giants that all the political spokesmen and women then go and work for after they've been in government.
Exactly.
And then also, again, tackling an issue that we've been talking about a lot on GBNews. Many high street banks are deserting the high street, not just in rural locations, but also in towns, even in some cities. Labour say they want to introduce new banking hubs, whatever that means. Again, there's no details. So they're definitely prodding around in the right area, because we all know in our bones, wherever we live in the UK, that the high street's under pressure. We all know how important the high street is, not just economically, but socially as well, from a sort of community aspect. And so Labour are saying that they're going to reform business rates, take on the tech giants, create new banking hubs. But again, these details are sorely lacking at this point.
My point was, Liam, the best way to save the high street is to turn the internet off, and they can't do that.
They can't do that. And, obviously, the internet has done great things for us in some senses, but it does mean that bricks and mortar retailing has really suffered. So where you have bricks and mortar retailers, people who rent or own shops, if they have to pay a massive slug of tax on that premises before they've even started, before they've taken in a single pound penny piece, let alone made any profit, if they're on the hook for those big taxes, and this is tens of thousands of pounds for even each year,
isn't it?
For small retailers, and yet the tech giants, they're not paying for that high street presence through business rates. They're often paying tax in other jurisdictions either. How can real world, if you like, retailers possibly compete?
They can't.
I don't believe a word of it. What, they're going to put a massive tax on the Amazon warehouses that is proportionately similar, let's say pro rata, to a cafe on Chiswick High Road.
I don't know how it's going to work, Bev, and I also know that once you start messing with business rates, you have to understand that it's a tax that very few journalists are even aware of. You're not really aware of it unless you run a small business yourself, and then you're very aware of it. But this is £30 billion a year, which is, a huge slug of cash. So if Labour are saying they're going to remove business rates for certain high street retailers, they're going to have to find that money from somewhere else.
I saw a tweet from the Tories in Wales saying, the proof is in the pudding. In Wales, the Labour administration has cut the relief on business rates by nearly half.
That's right.
And so that's the left arm not knowing what the right arm is.
This business rates issue, I've stressed it a lot on GB News. We used to talk about it all the time on my On The Money show. And the inbox would go mad. My Twitter feed would go mad with small retailers saying, keep going on about this. This is really important. This is going to kill our business, going to kill our family business. During COVID, there were reliefs, there were delays on business rates, there were special rates brought in to give shopkeepers some kind of relief. Those COVID-era lower levels are now expiring, and so the full force of regular business rates is hitting small businesses in particular again. So it's good that Labour are talking about this. I do think this is going to be one of the key battlegrounds of the general election, the high street, along with housing, tax and spend in general, the culture war stuff. But I do share some of your scepticism, Bev. On what we've heard so far,
and they haven't mentioned,
what we've seen so far, there's not much detail.
And they haven't mentioned parking.
Our inbox has. Let me tell you, our viewers are saying, allow us to drive and park in our high street and in our car parks, then we'll go and use the shops. Leslie said, put a tax on online vendors just to make them as expensive as the high street. Typical Labour ideas. Andrew's pointing out high street's going downhill because people are working from home. Frankie said the Labour Party looking for another way to soak up taxpayers' cash. That's what it sounds like.
The parking thing's actually absolutely crucial, isn't it? And it's not just that people have to pay to park in town. It's often that they have to download, half a dozen apps. They need a smartphone. If they don't park correctly, then they get fined instantly.
You can't just put £2 in the machine because they're trying to kill off cash too.
That's right.
Right, Liam, thank you so much. Right.